Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the rapidly evolving world of the SASB Pulp and Paper Product Standard. So, if you're a corporate sustainability officer, a financial preparer, or just someone keeping tabs on global ESG reporting, you already know the rules of the game are changing fast. We're going to break down exactly what all this means for the Industry Classification Code RRPP, unpacking both the recent administrative shakeups and the very specific metrics you'll need to hit in the near future. Let's get right into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, a new era of standards. Then, aligning with IFRS. Third, the RRPP standard scope. Fourth, key sustainability disclosure topics. And finally, the road to 2025.
Section 1. A new era of standards. The ISSB consolidation.
Okay, so a massive administrative transition went down back in August 2022. The International Sustainability Standards Board, you'll hear us call it the ISSB, which is part of the IFRS Foundation, officially took the reins of the SASB standards. And look, this wasn't just some basic corporate rebranding exercise. It was a huge move to globally harmonize sustainability-related financial info. The goal? Making sure investors and preparers are literally speaking the exact same language no matter where they are in the world.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. A change in stewardship usually means sheer panic about having to learn a totally new framework from scratch, right? Well, actually, this quote directly from the source material should help you breathe a massive sigh of relief. The SASB framework isn't going anywhere. It's just maturing and evolving under the ISSB's watchful eye. In fact, they are explicitly encouraging organizations to just keep using the SASB standards as their baseline for industry-specific reporting. Moving right along to Section 2, aligning with IFRS S1 and S2 requirements. So let's unpack these two super important acronyms. Under this new ISSB umbrella, the SASB standards essentially act as the foundational playbook for two major IFRS rules. First up is IFRS S1. Think of this as the big picture. It requires entities to use SASB standards to pinpoint material sustainability risks and opportunities that could actually impact their cash flow or access to funding. Then you've got IFRS S2, which zooms in specifically on climate-related disclosures. And to make things seamless, in June 2023, the ISSB actually amended the climate topics in the SASB standards so they line up perfectly with the IFRS S2 guidance. Section 3. The RRPP standard scope. Industry boundaries. Within the Sustainable Industry Classification System, or SICS, the specific standard we're focusing on today is coded as RRPP. This covers companies making all sorts of wood pulp and paper products. We're talking pulp fiber, paper packaging, sanitary paper, office paper, and newsprint. These are mostly massive B2B operations spanning multiple countries. But, and this is absolutely crucial to understand, while a lot of these companies might actually own timber tracts, this standard strictly excludes forestry management activities. Those specific issues are carved out and handled in a totally separate code, which is RRFM. All right, Section 4. Key sustainability disclosure topics, key sustainability risks. So what exactly are we measuring here? The standard zeroes in on 5 core disclosure topics that are virtually guaranteed to affect operational and financial performance. Number 1, greenhouse gas emissions. 2, air quality. 3, energy management. 4, water management. And 5, supply chain management. If you're steering the sustainability or financial reporting ship in the pulp and paper industry, these 5 pillars are essentially the holy grail of your data strategy. And they don't just leave these topics vague. They are rigorously broken down into hardcore quantitative metrics and specific units of measure. Take greenhouse gas emissions, for instance. You don't just guess. Entities have to disclose their gross global Scope 1 emissions, strictly calculated in metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. The standard points you right to clear methodologies, like the GHG protocol. Why? Because an investor comparing 2 different paper manufacturers needs to know they are looking at a true apples-to-apples comparison. Let's look at water management to see just how deep these requirements go. We all know pulp and paper manufacturing is incredibly water-intensive, right? So the standard demands a multi-step approach. Step 1, you quantitatively track the total water withdrawn and consumed, measured in thousands of cubic meters. Step 2, you have to analyze and disclose exactly how much of that water is used in areas facing high or extremely high baseline water stress, using tools like the WRI's Aqueduct tool. And finally, step 3 is qualitative. You've got to actually describe the very real risks of operating in those stressed regions and map out your strategies to mitigate those risks, like bringing in closed-loop recycling systems. Another really fascinating part of the standard is supply chain management, especially when it comes to recycled materials. Now, conventionally, we think using recycled fiber is a total win. It cuts down the need for virgin wood and keeps paper out of landfills. But the standard requires you to dig into the environmental life cycle trade-offs. Optimizing recycled fiber isn't a magic bullet. Making products with higher recycled content can actually hike up resource consumption and pump out more air emissions during processing and transport. The standard wants to see that you aren't just blindly chasing a recycled label, but actually weighing the environmental perks against the real operational and economic realities.
And finally, Section 5, the Road to 2025 Implementation Timeline.
Let's walk through this timeline because, wow, things have moved fast. August 2022, the ISSB steps in. Less than a year later, in June 2023, climate topics get amended to sync up with IFRS S2. Fast forward to December 2023, and the non-climate topics are updated for global applicability. This rapid-fire succession of updates brings us to the finalized version 2023-12, pointing us straight toward a massive milestone in 2025. And that milestone is January 1st, 2025. Version 2023-12 of the standard is officially effective for annual reporting periods beginning on or after this date. Now sure, early adoption is totally allowed and even encouraged, but make no mistake, January 1st, 2025 is the hard line. That's when all these updated metrics, from Scope 1 emissions to those complex water stress analyses, become the absolute mandated standard for your annual reporting. Which leaves us with this final, critical thought to ponder. The standards have matured, the global IFRS alignment is locked in, and the exact metrics for the pulp and paper industry are crystal clear. The clock is literally ticking down to that January 2025 effective date. Have you stress-tested your internal data gathering yet? Are your life cycle analysis tough enough to hold up to these rigorous disclosures? I really encourage you to use this explainer as your starting gun. Dive into your compliance frameworks today so you are fully prepared for tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in.